Hi friends, Prepared Suburbanite here. Wanted to talk to you today about something I think that's pretty important, that if you're into prepping, whether you're starting out or you've been there for a long time, keeping a journal might be a real handy tool before, being ready, and even after the S hits the fan. I'll be right back with some details. My granddad retired in the mid-60s after a long career as a part-time farmer, a plumber, a plumbing contractor, and I think the part owner or at least manager of a plumbing outfit in my hometown. And when he retired in the mid-60s, one of the things that he started doing was keeping a daily journal. And he just picked up one of those little books that you find in the stationery stores, and blank pages in there, maybe lined pages, and he would just record the date, record the temperature, the weather kind of stuff for the day, and anything that he was involved in that particular day. Places that he went, groceries that he bought, projects that he was working on around the house, that kind of stuff. And as time went on, he ended up amassing quite a lot of those journals. And when he passed away, those journals went to my cousin, who was more of a historian at the time than I was. And she's got all those, and I think has probably recorded them in a timeline as part of the genealogy kind of stuff that she was doing for the family. And but anyway, the importance of the journal for my grandfather, as he aged, I think he retired at about 65 or 68, somewhere around in there. And as he aged, he began to rely on that journal as part of his memory. So if he needed to remember the last time he went to the supermarket, he could flip back in his journal and figure it out. The last time he got gas in the car, that kind of stuff. And that was the kind of stuff that he'd record on a regular basis. And I think he just spent maybe 5 or 10 minutes every day at the dinner table, and he'd just jot down all the stuff that he had been doing that particular day. People that called, places that he went, folks that stopped in, all that. And he found it to be a very wonderful tool to be to jog his memory about things, to keep things going. And a year ago, I was thinking about my granddad and remembered the journals. I think his whole collection of journals, he lived until he was in his mid-90s, so he had probably almost 30 years, 25 years for sure, of these kinds of journals, big stacks of them that he kept in his bedroom. And I can remember when he was getting up there. He was in his 90s, and he ended up being taken advantage by an unscrupulous local contractor. The guy was doing work for him that didn't need to be done, and he was overcharging him for things. And it got to be so bad that the guy started threatening my grandfather with, "Oh, if you don't get this done, then I'm going to have to, start taking money out of your account," and all that kind of stuff. And he told me about it after it was kind of too late. I had a friend of mine that was a policeman in town. I went through his journals. We found out exactly what the guy's name was, what his telephone number was, where he lived, what days he was there. We cross-referenced it to my granddad's checking account, and the policeman was able to put together quite a dossier of history when he arrested the fella for whatever he arrested him for, and it was, you know, a theft for sure. And but that journal came in very, very handy because he had recorded every time that guy showed up and the work that he did and how much he paid him. And it was kind of sad that, you know, he'd come over and paint one wall of the one car garage that he had and charge him $800 for half a day's work. And it was like, well, that's way too much. So anyway, that's what inspired me, was the fact that my granddad kept that journal every day, pretty much every day of his retired life. So a year ago I started my own. I happened to be at, I think, the local Walmart, and they had these things, just kind of hardbound journals, just lined paper is really all it is, just like that. And so I started the journal actually on December 21st, 2018. It was a Friday. The temperature was about 63, and it was windy that day. It was also the first day of winter, and that's when I started it. I made a note in here. I said, you know, this will be kind of fun in remembering my granddad and the work that he put into his journals. And I just said, if I could stick with this, it's going to be pretty cool to be able to pass this kind of journal on to my kids so that they can remember me and what I was doing after I retired. I also found it very, very helpful to go back and reconstruct certain events. Like, when did you start that project? How long did it take? Excuse me. Those are the kinds of things, the trips that you took, the places you went to visit, folks that would drop in, and, you know, all that. I kept track of that. And what I do, you develop a discipline. It's kind of a new habit. And at dinner time, while everybody's scurrying around making dinner and doing all that kind of stuff, I'd take a minute, crack a cold beer, sit down to my journal, and remember and write down all the cool stuff that happened that particular day. Nothing out of the ordinary, I don't think, really escaped my attention. The routine stuff, yeah, I didn't write down everything we had for breakfast or lunch or dinner or anything like that. But if it was something special, yeah, I'd do that. If we go out to dinner, yeah, I'd mention that in there. So it was kind of fun doing it that way, and I developed that discipline. So pretty much every single night at dinner time, I spend maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes or so with my journal. And I found it very, very helpful when I have to go back and say, well, hey, what day did we can those tomatoes? What day did we start brewing that batch of beer? Those are the kinds of things that I found it to be very helpful to go back and try to look at. So what I'm saying is, if you're a prepper and you're getting up in years like I am, the old gray beards in us, keeping a journal may be a very, very important aspect of your prepping life and your lifestyle. I found it very, very helpful. I hope you do too. Love to hear your comments on whether you keep a journal, or you know people that do keep a journal, and any other tricks of the trade that you got for one of these things. I'd appreciate your comments. This is the Prepared Suburbanite, reminding you to be prepared always, and I'll see you all on the next video.